You ever look at your grocery bill and wonder how it somehow jumped from manageable to a complete disaster in barely a week? Let's fix that in this video. Today, we're looking at something surprisingly simple. 7 foods you might actually want in your budget, not because they're trendy or magical, but because so many people overlook how powerful these basics can be for keeping costs low without feeling deprived. Groceries are one of the few parts of your budget you can adjust at any time. You can't instantly change your rent. You can't renegotiate your car loan every month. But the food you buy, that's flexible. And small shifts there can mean real money saved over time. So instead of talking about what to cut, today we're exploring what might be smart to do, such as including foods that stretch farther, reduce impulse spending, and give you more control over your wallet. Before we dive in, if you find content like this helpful, feel free to support the channel and subscribe for more financial content. The first food, oats. Oats might not sound exciting, but they quietly solve a lot of budget problems. For one, they're shelf-stable. They sit in your pantry for months without going bad, which means no wasted food and no wasted money. People usually underestimate how much of their grocery budget disappears simply because food spoils before they get to it. There's also portion flexibility. Oats can be tiny or huge meals depending on what someone needs that day. They can be breakfast, a snack, a base for smoothies, even a filler for homemade snacks. When a food can be used multiple ways, it tends to reduce the number of random items you feel tempted to buy. And here's something bigger to think about. When someone has at least one reliable, inexpensive meal they actually enjoy, they're less likely to spend impulsively on takeout. Oats become a default option, which means fewer financial emergencies disguised as DoorDash receipts. So while oats might not feel glamorous, they serve as a quiet line of defense in a budget that needs stability. The second food are eggs. Now, depending on where someone lives, egg prices might go up or down, but one thing stays constant. They're one of the most versatile and cost-efficient foods you can buy. Some people think of them only for breakfast, but eggs sneak into more meals than we realize. Sandwiches, rice bowls, salads, quick dinners, baking, even simple snacks. What makes eggs so budget-friendly isn't just the price, it's the convenience. They cook fast. They require almost no extra ingredients. They work when someone is tired, rushing, or trying not to overspend on food out of frustration. A lot of budgeting issues happen when people get home hungry, exhausted, and discouraged. They don't want to cook something complicated, and that's usually the moment when delivery apps hit. Having something like eggs ready to go helps break that cycle. Another small but important detail. Eggs also prevent waste. You can make exactly the amount you want. No leftovers that sit in the fridge for a week. No half-used ingredients. Just quick, direct, usable food. So eggs sit in that sweet spot. Affordable, flexible, and hard to mess up. The third food, rice. Rice is one of those foods that shows up in nearly every culture for a reason. It stretches. 1 cup becomes several servings. That kind of return on investment is rare in the grocery world. But the real power of rice is that it creates structure. When someone has a predictable base food at home, they buy fewer extras. A bag of rice isn't exciting on its own, but it pairs with almost anything. That stops you from feeling like you need a dozen different grocery items every week. Another thing people don't always consider, rice reduces emotional spending. When meals feel predictable and easy, people are less likely to wander through stores looking for inspiration and accidentally buying twice what they planned. Also, rice can be prepared cheaply in big batches, giving you ready-to-use meals throughout the week. That reduces the "what do I eat" moments that often lead to unnecessary spending. So rice isn't just inexpensive, it keeps the rest of your grocery budget grounded. The fourth food, beans and lentils. Whether canned or dry, beans and lentils are some of the most cost-effective foods on the planet. But what's interesting is how they influence someone's shopping habits. When you have beans or lentils in your kitchen, meals become easier to bulk up. Suddenly, leftovers stretch farther, soups last longer, salads become more filling. This means people buy less volume overall because every meal goes further. Another thing to consider is that beans and lentils replace more expensive protein sources. And while this isn't about nutrition advice, financially they're unmatched. A single bag can create multiple meals for just a few dollars. They also give people the option to avoid the "I have nothing to eat" panic. When dry goods are stocked, there's always something inexpensive to make. That prevents emergency grocery runs, which are usually the ones where people overspend. And if someone uses canned beans, there's zero prep barrier. Open, rinse, use. That simplicity saves money by reducing the chances of grabbing fast food instead. Beans and lentils may not be flashy, but they're one of the strongest budgeting tools hiding in plain sight. The fifth food, potatoes. Potatoes are like the unsung hero of budget groceries. They're cheap, filling, and unbelievably adaptable. And just like rice, they serve as a base food that stabilizes a kitchen. Potatoes prevent people from buying expensive snacks because they can always be turned into something comforting. Roasted, mashed, baked, pan-fried, air-fried, added to soups, or turned into mix-in meals when the fridge starts to look empty. They last a long time too, so you're not watching your money rot in the produce drawer. They keep for weeks, sometimes months, which reduces the amount of food thrown away. That alone can save someone more than they realize. Another overlooked point is how potatoes make other foods feel more satisfying. When budgets are tight, people often buy small amounts of different foods and end up hungry again quickly. Potatoes fix the not full enough problem without raising the grocery bill. So when someone has potatoes in their pantry, the rest of their food tends to stretch naturally. The sixth food, frozen vegetables. Frozen vegetables don't get enough credit. Many people still think of them as lower quality, when in reality they're often more cost-effective and last far longer than fresh produce. The biggest benefit is simple: zero waste. Fresh vegetables go bad, usually much faster than people expect. And when something spoils, you're not just losing food. You're losing money. Frozen vegetables remove that problem entirely. They're also versatile. Stir-fries, pastas, soups, omelets, rice bowls. Frozen vegetables slide into almost anything without extra prep. That convenience saves money because meals don't need extra ingredients to feel complete. And there's another quiet benefit. Frozen vegetables reduce the pressure to plan perfectly. A lot of people overspend because they're trying to buy ingredients for meals they hope they'll want later in the week. Frozen vegetables allow flexibility. Plans change, and that's okay because nothing spoils. Plus, they often cost less per serving than their fresh counterparts, especially out of season. For budgeting, frozen vegetables act like insurance. They protect your money from going to waste. The seventh food, pasta. Pasta is one of those foods that stays inexpensive even when everything else in the grocery store feels like it's secretly raising prices overnight. And beyond being cheap, pasta works as a budget anchor. Something predictable, filling, and easy to expand creatively. Pasta turns small leftovers into full meals. A tiny bit of chicken, a handful of vegetables, a spoonful of sauce. All the little things sitting in the fridge suddenly have a purpose. That alone stops people from throwing away food they already paid for. It also solves the "I don't want to cook something complicated tonight" problem. When people hit that wall, they usually overspend. Pasta helps sidestep that moment. A pot of water, a few minutes, and dinner happens. And for someone trying to stick to a budget, that simplicity matters. It's a food that adjusts to whatever price point someone is at. You can use inexpensive sauces or repurpose leftovers. Pasta scales with creativity, but doesn't require it. So pasta makes budgeting easier, not by cutting things out, but by giving structure to meals that might otherwise lead to overspending. So looking back at everything, these 7 foods, oats, eggs, rice, beans and lentils, potatoes, frozen vegetables, and pasta, might not be fancy or new, but they play a role that's bigger than people realize. They each reduce waste, stretch meals, prevent emergency takeout spending, and make grocery budgeting easier without feeling like you're constantly giving something up. Budgeting isn't just about cutting costs. Sometimes it's about choosing the right basics that quietly support you week after week. If you've used any of these foods to help keep your budget steady, or if you have your own go-to budget foods that others might not think about, drop them in the comments. Your ideas might help someone else save money too. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe so you don't miss more content like this. In the meantime, click on one of the videos showing at your screen right now